Provosts are military police whose duties are policing solely within the armed forces, as opposed to gendarmerie duties in the civilian population. However, many countries use the gendarmerie for provost duties. As with all official terms, some countries have specific official terminology which differs from the exact linguistic meaning. The head of the military police is commonly referred to as the Provost Marshal. This ancient title was originally given to an officer whose duty it was to ensure that the army of the king did no harm to the citizenry. Military police are concerned with law enforcement on military property and concerning military personnel, installations, security, close personal protection of senior military officers, management of prisoners of war, management of military prisons, traffic control, route signing and resupply route management. Not all military police organizations are concerned with all of these areas. However, these personnel are generally not frontline combatants but, especially when directing military convoys, will be close to the front line. Some MPs, such as the US MP Corps, are used as the primary defense force in rear area operations. In many countries, military forces have separate prisons and judicial systems, different from civilian entities. The military possibly also has its own interpretation of criminal justice. Australia. In the Australian Army, the Royal Australian Corps of Military Police also performs the role of a secondary communications network in the front battle zone. Austria. The military police of the Austrian Bundesheer is called Commando Militaire Streif and Amp Militaire Police. Belgium. The Belgian Army's military police group performs military police duties on behalf of all four components of the Belgian military. The group is headed by a lieutenant colonel and numbers chapter 188 members in 5 MP companies. Military police duties in Belgium have always included enforcement of military discipline, managing road traffic and wartime handling of prisoners of war. In 2003, duties relating to refugees and deserters in wartime were transferred from the then disbanded Gendarmerie Nationale to the MPs. Members of the former 4 and 6 MP companies were folded into the new MP group, along with some gendarmes previously assigned MP-related duties. Belgian MPs are identified by black armbands with the letters MP in white block letters, worn on the left arm. Brazil. Brazil has 2 types of military police. The Polícia Militar of each Brazilian state are not provost forces but civilian preventive police. Each of the Brazilian armed forces also has its own provost force. Polícia do Exército in the Army, Polícia da Marinha in the Navy, and Polícia da Aeronáutica in the Air Force. Canada. The Canadian Forces military police contribute to the effectiveness and readiness of the Canadian Forces and the Department of National Defence, through the provision of professional police, security and operational support services worldwide. CFMP are classified as peace officers in the Canadian Criminal Code, which gives them the same powers as civilian law enforcement personnel to enforce acts of Parliament on or in relation to DND property or assets. Anywhere in the world, they have the power to arrest anyone who is subject to the Code of Service Discipline, regardless of position or rank under the National Defence Act. MP have the power to arrest and charge non-CSD-bound civilians only in cases where a crime is committed on or in relation to DND property or assets, or at the request of the Minister of Public Safety, Commissioner of the Correctional Service of Canada or Commissioner of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Although MP jurisdiction is only on DND property across Canada and throughout the world, any civilian civilian accessing these areas falls under MP jurisdiction and are dealt with in the same manner as any civilian policing agency. If in fact a crime is committed on or in relation to DND property or assets, MP have the power to arrest and charge the offender, military or civilian, under the Criminal Code. It is important to note though that the purpose of the CFMP is not to replace the job of a civilian police officer, but rather to support the Canadian forces through security and policing services. MP also have the power to enforce the Provincial Highway Traffic Act on all military bases in Canada contrary to the government property traffic regulations. China, Republic of. Unlike military police in many other countries, the Republic of China military police are a separate branch of the ROC Armed Forces. The ROCMP are responsible for enforcing military law, maintaining military discipline, providing backup for the civilian police force serving as combat troops during times of emergency, providing security for certain government buildings, including the Presidential Office Building in Taipei City, as well as performing counter-terrorism and VIP protection operations. The ROCMP are also charged with the defense of Taipei, the capital of the Republic of China. Finland. The Sotilaspoliisi are the military police of the Finnish Defence Forces. Their emblem is a black armband on the left shoulder with the letters SP in white. SPs have no power over civilians except inside military zones and installations. However, SPs can be used as temporary manpower when the regular police are undermanned. For example, during the 2005 Helsinki Athletics Championships, military police conscripts were placed all along the running tracks through the city to prevent the large numbers of spectators from obstructing the runners. In these cases, they are given a limited amount of power over civilians, as the regular police needed the extra support to handle the large influx of tourists. As military police conscripts are trained with basic police techniques, they are suitable for usage in instances such as these in Finland. Serving one's tour of duty as an SP serves as a qualification in accessing the Civilian Police Academy in Finland. France. The Gendarmerie Nationale acts as both the Provost military police and one of the two national police forces of France. The Gendarmerie Navale Police is the Navy and the Gendarmerie de l'Air Police is the Air Force. Both are branches of the Gendarmerie Nationale. La Prévôté, or Gendarmerie Prévôtelle, is a Gendarmerie Nationale unit based out of France during war operations or when large units of the French armed forces are stationed overseas. Germany. During World War II, Germany had numerous military police units. The primary units were the Feldgendarmerie, which comprised members of the Gendarmerie. Other units included the Army Patrol Service, the train station guards, and the Feldjäger Corps. The Feldjäger are the current military police of the German Bundeswehr. The term Feldjäger has a long tradition and dates back to the mid-17th century, as the current German constitution explicitly forbids the employment of troops on German territory. Feldjäger jurisdiction applies only to military facilities and military personnel. The motto is Suum quicut fortitudo in laboribus periculorisque cernitur astitia in suo quic tribuendo. Quote, closing parenthesis. Greece. Each branch of the Hellenic armed forces used to maintain its own police service, i.e. Stratonomia as the military police of the Hellenic army, Naftonomia of the Hellenic navy and Aeronomia of the Hellenic air force. As of 2014, all three military police entities merged to create a single armed forces police. India. The Corps of Military Police is the military police of the Indian Army. In addition, the CMP is trained to handle prisoners of war and to regulate traffic, as well as to handle basic telecommunication equipment such as telephone exchanges. They can be identified by the red berets, white lanyards and belts, and they also wear a black brassard with the letters MPM printed in red. Internal policing duties in a regiment are handled by the regimental police, who are soldiers of the unit who are assigned to policing tasks for a short period of time. They are essentially used to regulate regimental discipline, and can be identified by a black brassard with the letters RP embossed in gold or white. The Indian Air Force is policed by the Indian Air Force Police. They can be identified by the white peaked caps, white lanyards and belts. They also wear a black brassard with the letters IFPM printed in red. The Indian Navy has the Navy Police, and they can be identified by a black brassard with the letters NP in gold, with the state emblem placed in between the N and the P. Indonesia. In Indonesia, the military police are known as Korps Polisi Militer or simply Polisi Militer. They are the police of the military armed forces organization in charge of enforcing discipline and the maintenance of law and order in the military environment and for military purposes in support of the main tasks to uphold the sovereignty of the state and territorial integrity of the Republic of Indonesia. They serve as policing units in the armed forces. The military police of Indonesia also perform duties in the area of law enforcement involving members of the military, installation of security, escort protection of senior military officers and/or important government officials, setting and supervising prisoners of war, controlling custody of military prisoners, managing military traffic control and marking and managing routes and resupply routes for military and civilian purposes. Indonesian military police are identifiable with the blue berets and also wear white helmet printed PM and dark blue brassard worn on their upper left sleeve also printed PM. There are 3 military police corps in Indonesia, which are POMAD for Army, POMAL for Navy, and POMAU for the Air Force. Provosts are provosts in Indonesia, shortened, secures, supervises and maintains discipline in a battalion or regimental headquarters of the military, which is specifically different from the military police. It is like the regimental police. The Indonesian provost soldiers are identifiable with their dark blue brassard printed Prov worn on their upper left sleeve. The Indonesian National Police also has provosts, which is the internal affairs division known as PROPAM. This unit supervises and maintains discipline in the internal scope of the National Police. Personnel of this unit are identifiable with the blue berets and wear dark blue brassard printed Prov. Iran, Israel. The Hail Hamashtara Hatzvarat is the military police of the Israel Defense Forces. It also helps monitor prisons, both those containing Israeli soldiers and Palestinian detainees. Italy. The Carabinieri is a gendarmerie force which acts as both the military police and one of the 3 national police forces in Italy. The Guardia di Finanza also has some limited military police duties. Japan. During World War II, the Kempeitai were the military police of the Imperial Japanese Army and the Tokaitai were the military police of the Imperial Japanese Navy. They also performed intelligence and secret police functions and were active in Japan and its occupied territories. The Japan Self-Defense Forces maintain military police units. Malaysia. The Korpolis Tentara Diraja performs military police duties in the Malaysian Army. Apart from enforcing discipline and conduct of members of the Army, the Corps oversees security of designated Army installations, performs escort and ceremonial duties, and assists civil law enforcement authorities. The Corps Police-Tentara is also tasked with crime prevention and investigating criminal activities on Army property or by military personnel. With its roots in the British Royal Military Police, members of the Corps Police-Tentara Diraja also wear the distinctive red-peaked cap, white lanyard belt, as well as a black brassard with the letters PTM printed. Netherlands. In the Netherlands, the function of military police is performed by the Koninklijke Marechaussee, a separate branch of the military independent of the Army, Navy and Air Force. Besides performing military duties, the Marechaussee is also a gendarmerie force. The word Marechaussee seems to derive from the Old French name Maréchaux given to an ancient court of justice in Paris called the Tribunal of Constables and Marshals of France. These constables and marshals were to become members of the gendarmerie, which served as a model for the police forces of both Belgium and the Netherlands. The term Marechaussee was also used for the U.S. Army's military police during the American Revolution. New Zealand. Currently all military police duties operate under the newly established Tri-Service Unit of the New Zealand Defence Force Military Police. The three services, Royal New Zealand Navy, New Zealand Army and Royal New Zealand Air Force, still maintain their own identity but operate under a single Provost Marshal and investigate offences against the Armed Forces Discipline Act 1971. The NZDF military police operates outside of the normal Navy, Army and Air Force command structure. The current commanding officer is a group captain who reports directly to the Vice Chief of the NZDF. At all NZDF facilities, civilian staff are used to augment physical security manpower, particularly for relatively simple tasks like ID checking and security patrols. In 2014 it was announced that the New Zealand Army Military Police, RNZA Naval Police, and the RNZAF Force Protection Service Police would merge to form a new tri-service unit. This would involve 12 paralines for Air Force, 13 paralines for Navy and 46 paralines for Army. The new unit will adopt the name of the New Zealand Defence Force Military Police. It will commence operations on 1 December 2014. A joint investigative unit would also be formed to investigate more serious offences with senior investigators from all three services making up. This unit will be known as the Special Investigations Branch. It will have a similar role to the Australian Defence Force Investigative Service. All New Zealand Defence Force military police are identifiable by the blue and white MP patch they wear on the uniform and a blue beret as headdress. Norway. In Norway, military police are service members of the Norwegian Army, Royal Norwegian Navy or Royal Norwegian Air Force. Since about 2002, all are trained at Sesvollmoen Camp. Norwegian MPs do not have authority over civilians, except on military installations or under martial law. They also have authority to direct civilian traffic as part of military exercises. They do have authority over military personnel anywhere, including when such personnel are off duty. When the military police uncover serious crimes among Norwegian service members, it forwards the case to the civilian Norwegian police service for investigation. Norwegian MPs first go through a 6-month selection educational period, before being assigned to the battalion or to regimental duties with other units for the remainder of the 12-month service. The Heimevernet also has MPs in its ranks. Usually each district has 1 or 2 platoons, consisting consisting exclusively of former regular conscript military police personnel. Norwegian MPs wear a red beret and a red lanyard around the left shoulder extending to the left front pocket. Only personnel currently serving as MPs are allowed to wear this. When on official duty, they also wear the MP armband, which is black with MP in red letters. It was previously worn on the right shoulder, but is now worn on the left shoulder, following NATO practice. They can also wear white webbing, or a number of items for special duties, like high visibility vests for traffic duty etc. Army K-9 units are also assigned to the MP battalion, but the personnel in such units are not necessarily MPs. Such personnel do not hold military police authority, and do not wear the MP insignia. Poland. The military police of the Silesia Brynaricze Pospolite Polskie is called Gendarmeria Wojskowa. Portugal. In Portugal, each branch of the armed forces has its own military police force. The Portuguese Navy has the Policia Naval, the Portuguese Army has the Policia do Exército, and the Portuguese Air Force has the Policia Aérea. The Air Police is an arm of its own inside the Air Force, but the Army Police is only a speciality of the Cavalry Arm, and the Naval Police is a speciality of the Marines. There is also the Republican National Guard, a gendarmerie-type police force responsible for law enforcement in the countryside and small towns. Russia. Until 2010, the Russian OMON and the military prosecution were operated as military police. On 2012, Ministry of Defense has established the VP, which headed by a first deputy minister. Sri Lanka. Each of the Sri Lankan armed forces has its own military police, Provost branch. The Sri Lanka Army is policed by the Sri Lanka Corps of Military Police and by regimental police, who belong to each individual regiment's corps. The military police force carries out the following missions: maintenance of order and discipline, consists of monitoring, maintaining and, if necessary, re-establishing discipline and military order. This also involves controlling stragglers and refugees in times of war and guarding and escorting prisoners of war. Security missions, prevents and deters any threat to or attack against the personnel and property of the armed forces. MPs also provide VIP motorcycle escorts and honor guards, perform close protection missions, and escort classified documents and money transports. The Sri Lanka Navy is policed by the Provost branch. The Sri Lanka Air Force is policed by the Air Force Police. Singapore. In Singapore, the Singapore Armed Forces Military Police Command serves as the military police unit of the Singapore Armed Forces, and supports the Singapore Police Force by way of collaborations, such as in the co-location of dog training facilities for policing duties. The Singapore Civil Defence Force has a Provost unit which handles the force's security and regimental disciplinary matters. Thailand. In Thailand, each branch of the armed forces has its own military police force. The Royal Thai Navy has the Naval Military Police, the Royal Thai Army has the Army Military Police, and the Royal Thai Air Force has the Air Force Military Police. Turkey. In Turkey, the military police is a very small force that handles military security and military crimes. The larger Turkish Gendarmerie, one of the 5 branches of the Turkish armed forces, is responsible for maintaining law and order in rural areas which do not fall under the jurisdiction of regular police forces. United Kingdom. Each of the British armed forces has its own military police branch. The British Army is policed by the Royal Military Police. The Royal Air Force is policed by the Royal Air Force Police. The Royal Navy is policed by the Royal Navy Police. The Royal Marines maintains a platoon-sized police troop, formerly the Royal Marines Police, which has been part of the Royal Navy Police since 2009. Each of the 3 services has its own special investigation branch to undertake investigations investigations of a seriously complex nature. SIB investigators normally wear plain clothes and operate in a similar manner to civilian police (SID). All British military police are correctly named as service police and conform to the service police codes of practice powers for all arms of the British Service Police come from Armed Forces Act 2006, an act that came into force in 2008. The British Military Correctional Training Centre for all three services at Colchester is operated by the Military Provost Staff Corps and all senior NCO Corps, which only recruits from serving personnel. MPS are not police and serve the same function as a prison officer. This role is additionally carried out by them on operations when handling foreign detainees at main operating bases such as Camp Bastion, Kandahar, United States. The Military Police Corps maintains discipline and enforces the law in the United States Army. The Marine Corps version is referred to as the Provost Marshal's Office, while personnel assigned to the Master-at-Arms branch fill the same role in the United States Navy. The United States Air Force is policed by the Air Force Security Forces, formerly called the Air Police and then Security Police. Criminal investigation in the United States Armed Forces is carried out by separate agencies: the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, the Pentagon Force Protection Agency, the Army Criminal Investigation Division, the Coast Guard Investigative Service, and the Marine Corps Military Police Investigations. The Defense Criminal Investigative Service is a civilian agency that answers directly to the DoD. The United States Constabulary was a gendarmerie force used to secure and patrol the American zone of West Germany immediately after World War II. Vietnam. In Vietnam, the 144th Brigade of Provosts is under command of the General Staff of the Vietnam People's Army. Vietnam Provost is responsible for policing the armed forces.